Hey, this is Rick Robinson of the Robinson Twins with the new installment to our playlist, Earth is Our Spherical Home Planet. One of the fundamental things of the flat Earth notion is that they really don't have a map. They claim to have one, but it's the azimuthal equidistant projection, which we'll get into in this installment, and explain their derivative of that. The Gleason map is also flawed and serves to debunk the whole flat Earth notion. You'll see what we mean in a little bit. What you're looking at is an azimuthal equidistant projection map using the North Pole as the center. Because it's based on a spherical Earth, you can choose any point to be your center, but the most common choice is the North Pole. The advantages of this kind of map is that the distances in the north-south direction are accurate and match up to the globe. Those are the meridian lines that radiate like spokes from the center. The direction is also accurate when you start from your center point and use compass headings. That will be accurate as well. Where it falls apart is when you go from a 3D spherical Earth to a 2D map, there will always be distortions. And in this AE map, the distortions are in the east-west directions. So everything between the equator and the North Pole is squished together, and everything from the equator to the South Pole is stretched apart almost to the point of beyond recognition. You can especially see this with Australia. Australia looks huge, but North America is actually 3 times bigger. In fact, of the 7 continents, Australia is the smallest. The largest continent, Asia, is actually 6 times bigger than Australia. Also on this map, it looks like Antarctica is the largest continent on Earth, but actually Africa is twice the size of Antarctica. Here's the list of the continents in order with their approximate areas. If this map is so distorted and doesn't represent the real Earth, why do flat Earth notionists continue to use it? Well, because they have a tradition. There's a British man named Samuel Rowbotham who chose it as his map in the 1800s, and he made mistakes in doing so, but flat earthers do not learn from their mistakes and won't correct them either. And then it continued with a man from Buffalo, New York, Alexander Gleason, who chose the AE map to be the flat Earth map, even though it's wrong. And he put his own words around the outside of the AE map and put a copyright on it, and also patented it when he put 2 arms on there that would go from the center and show you the time zones. Neither the copyright nor the patent provides any proof whatsoever that the flat Earth map is legitimate. So we'll talk about that next. First off, the Gleason map wasn't even made by Gleason. He got it as an azimuthal equidistant projection from J.S. Christopher, listed as Modern College, Blackheath, England. Well, it turns out there is no Modern College in Blackheath, England. It's called Morden College. And it's not even an educational institution. It's a charitable foundation set up to support merchants who are down on their luck and provide a place for them to live. And J.S. Christopher was one of their residents. He also adds the word scientifically and practically correct. But we know that's wrong because look at Australia. It's completely distorted, as I mentioned earlier in this video. And everything north of the equator gets squished together. We plan to do the Earth is Our Spherical Home Planet playlist. We wanted to have it as our policy and not to actually name names of any flat earthers. But in this case, we actually have to pause that rule momentarily because this is Mark Sargent. He's been an advocate of the flat Earth for over 10 years. And he's holding up an azimuthal equidistant projection based on a globe. And apparently he's one of the few flat earthers who actually knows that it's wrong, because look what happened to Australia. He fixed the distortions. So even Mark Sargent knows this projection is wrong and not a flat Earth. Hey, Mark, here's a word of advice. If you know Australia is wrong and you're going to correct it, why stop there? Do that for Antarctica, too. Here's what Antarctica should look like. And what about the northern hemisphere that's squished together? Why don't you fix that, too? Mark, here's a suggestion. If you want to take care of the stretching of lands in the southern hemisphere and the squishing of lands in the northern hemisphere all at the same time, start with this. And all those problems will be corrected. No distortions. Even Alexander Gleason, in his patent application for this invention, knew that this map came from a globe. Now, the AE map has been around for 1,000 years, so it's publicly available. So his patent wasn't for the map. It was what he did was stick two paper arms from the center, and they did have distances marked off on them because in the north-south direction, the AE map does match the distances that you would find on the globe. And then he put 24-hour time zones around the outside. In the 1890s, time zones were still a new thing. And what you could do with these two arms is put them on two different time zones and then immediately see the difference between those two areas and see what the time difference was. That's all it was. It was called a time chart. So that's what the patent was for. It lends no credibility to this as being a flat map. But in his patent application, you have to have a drawing and you also have to have a written description of how it's put together and how you work it. And on the last page of his patent application, you'll see what he says about this map. The map is not so extorted as to lose the relative latitude and longitude of any place on the land or sea, but retains all latitude and longitudes of places agreeing with other recognized authors. And as the proper relations of continents and countries all stand in their relative position to each other, they are thus impressed upon the mind of the student. The extortion of the map from that of a globe consists mainly in the straightening out of the meridian lines, allowing each to retain their original value from Greenwich, the equator to the two poles. Alexander Gleason knew the basic process of how this map was created, straightening out the meridian lines or lines of longitude, so that the distances north-south were correct and matched what's on the globe. It's the east-west directions that are thoroughly distorted. Choosing this map gave flat earthers other big problems, and that's related to the sun and the seasons. It's known that the Arctic has 24 hours of sun in June, and that the Antarctic has 24 hours of sun in December. This map makes the 24-hour sun in December for Antarctica impossible. Why does that create a problem? Well, if the sun was shining on the Antarctic part south of South America, it couldn't possibly be lighting up the Antarctic south of Australia at the same time, because we know that when Antarctica has 24 hours of sunlight, the Arctic has 24 hours of nighttime. Some flat earthers tried to explain away the problem by creating an azimuthal equidistant projection with the South Pole at the center. But now you can't explain why there's 24 hours of daylight in the North Pole in June. Same problem. The Earth is a globe. You can choose any point you want to be the center of your azimuthal equidistant map. So North Pole is the most common. You also have the South Pole, but you could choose any other spot you wanted. In fact, I found some that has Taipei, Taiwan as the center point, and another one that shows Los Angeles as the center point. The interesting thing about Los Angeles is the opposite side of the Earth from Los Angeles is the Indian Ocean, so it just has a ring of water around the outside. I think we can conclude that at least two proponents of the flat Earth knew that their AE map was based on the globe. Alexander Gleason said so in his patent application, and Mark Sargent corrected Australia and probably thought no one would notice, but we noticed. We also have a video about the flights in the southern hemisphere that prove the AE map is wrong, gets the distances totally off, and that the globe gets them correct. We'll have a link to that video in our description. In conclusion, we can say that anyone who believes in the flat Earth and presents the AE map as their flat Earth map has already debunked themselves right from the start. The AE map as flat Earth map is automatic debunk. Actually, we've seen some desperate flat earthers try to say that the AE map, North Pole centered, is the correct flat Earth map, and that the globe believers simply took that and tried to wrap it around a sphere in order to make the globe. But here's the thing. If wrapping that map around the globe to create the globe fixes the distortions and gives accurate distances, then you'd have to admit that The sphere was the right shape all along.